Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Pulp, Punditry and Portchy. Episode 4 of Pulp, Punditry and Portchy. I hope you've all had a good week. So today's episode is going to be with the first team manager, Mick Catlin. So Mick, how have you been recently, I guess?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Looking forward to getting back to training and football and normal life really, hopefully, in the next few months.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that we, been craving football, isn't it, for ages, but we want it obviously to be right when we can come back, but yeah, we're so looking forward to it. So we spoke maybe about a month or so on my mate Dan's show on football is, and that's what I want. So how have things been for you, I guess, just generally since then?
Pretty busy really on the football side of it. Preparation for this season, we've had to sort of try and prepare as normal, even though we don't know any dates of starting. Trying to sign players, trying to attract new players to the club, trying to keep our existing players, so pretty normal really. And we're looking at sort of individual training for the players at the moment, which we're bringing back small groups once a week, and hopefully get some more information about how we're going to progress from there really. So normal summer it feels like.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, it must be interesting to get the players back in and doing the training routine, but in thinking cleverly about how you can, do it sensibly.
Yeah, I think
within the guidelines.
I think it's showing everyone a new way of working really, because my normal summer would be driving around meeting players at various locations, trying to sell the club to them, and that takes a lot of time. I think with being in lockdown, we've had to do things, by Zoom or by telephone or email, and it's actually been a lot easier and taken a lot less time than it normally does. So maybe that's the future, and that's the way we adapt to that. And the same with the press stuff, with you coming in and doing podcasts and stuff like that. I think that's the way forward really.
Yeah,
it's good for the club, it's good for the exposure for the club, and hopefully we can build on that throughout the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're already excited. So in terms of, you just said it really, we kind of touched on that, preparations building up gradually to next season. So what has training looked like then in terms of the sessions, what we've been able to do with the players so far?
We're a bit limited at the moment. Most of it's just general fitness. I mean, I'm very pleased with the condition of the lads, to be honest. I think having been in lockdown, the boredom factors kicked in, and a lot of the lads are doing their own fitness, bike riding, running. They obviously can't go to the gym, but they've sort of managed to sort their own gyms out and work their own things. So I think nowadays the condition of the players is good all year round really, even at our level. I mean, in my day, you come back for pre-season, it would take you a month to try and get back to where you were at the end of the season, and a lot of the older players would put on a couple of stone and they'd have to lose that. I remember, older players coming back with bin bags on and sweating it out. I think those days are long gone, and players know their bodies a bit better, and general fitness is a lot better in most young players nowadays.
I mean, it's great to hear it. With what's that programme that was on recently with the Harry's Heroes? You see
yes.
Where they've all kind of got to try and lose the weight, haven't they?
Yeah,
kind of different kind of transition, isn't it? How the play at all levels has changed.
I think that was a bit disappointing, really, that players of that class, in their day, have managed to end up so unfit. But when players' careers end, they go in a different path. But I think now it's a bit different.
Yeah, it's clear to see the difference between some of them, wasn't it? Like mentality was, even those ones there. But
it's still winners though.
Exactly.
Regardless of what their body was like, they were still desperate to win. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, what we're going to do first of all is like we did with Lee as well. We're going to just talk a little bit about your career, playing and management, and also about Portchy going into next season as well. So, I guess just to start things off. So you've had experience in playing and management career throughout yourself. if we're looking at some clubs, I mean, you sent me a list. My research through Google took me onto the 30th search on Google, looking deep into the different things, because there's a fair few places you've been throughout your career, which is fantastic. So, in terms of your playing career, you played for the likes of like Andover, Gosport, Fareham. So, do you just want to talk us a little bit through that, I guess, really? What position did you play? Any clubs have missed out? Anything you want to mention about that?
Yeah. Well, as a youth player, I was a striker, but when I got to 18, I got into the Waterlooville under-18s youth side. Ray Hiram was the manager, who recently passed away.
Sorry to hear that.
Obviously, he'd just come out of Portsmouth, and it was the first time really that I'd had proper coaching, I think, and he converted me into a midfield player. I played in the middle or on the right, generally on the right, because I had a bit of pace in those days. And we had a real good youth side at Waterlooville. It's my local club. You know, I live in Purbrook, so Waterlooville is my non-league club as such. 2 good years there. We won the Hampshire Youth League when teams like Saints were in it, Brighton were in it, and it was a real strong league. And then after the 18s, tried to get in the reserves at Waterlooville, which was very difficult at the time. I was a Waterlooville supporter, so I grew up watching from school. You know, I went to Purbrook Park, so after school we'd go to Jubilee Park, watch Waterlooville play. You know, my heroes were people like John Robson, Mickey Seymour, Mickey Bennett, Kim Manns, you know, all great non-league players, and that's what I aspired to do really. But got to 18s, hit a bit of a brick wall, really couldn't get in the reserve side, and then lost my way a little bit, drifted into the Portsmouth League, playing with the Portsmouth Premier League with the Civil Service, which was a good strong league at the time, you know, full of men, proper men.
Yeah.
And it taught me a lot, and then got picked up by Horndean at about 19, they were in the old Hampshire Premier League, which was now like the Wessex Premier League. And spent a few years there, enjoyed it, got in the first team. Dave Reed was the manager who had moved from Waterlooville reserves to there, took a lot of the old Waterlooville players. And then progressed from there really, moved to Petersfield under John Robson, who was manager there. Played in the Deodora League, which is now which was the old Isthmian League, which is Bogner's sort of standard. A few years there, signed for Andover, back in the Southern League, and then eventually got the move in 88, 89 back to Waterlooville, which was always my ambition to try and play in the first team there.
Second coming.
Yeah, really signed in 88, 89 when I was 23. Great side, had people like Paul Moody, Guy Whittingham, Calvin Hoare, you know, who was a legend of Waterlooville, Billy Cole, Kev Clements, people like that, real proper non-league players, and had a good start that year, played most of the early games, and then picked up an injury and then struggled to get back in towards the end and went out on loan to Worthing and a few other clubs. And then from Waterlooville really drifted around, went to Fareham for a while, under Don Gowans, then moved to Gosport, had 3 seasons there, and then picked up a real bad knee injury when I was about 27, playing against Hampton Town, tore my knee ligament, so I was out for a year, really knocked me back really. I was midway through my contract, so I got injured, so my contract ran out while I was injured and struggled to get back from that really, and then sort of heading into my 30s, ended up playing in the Sussex League for a club called Portfield, which turned into Chichester. There were 2 clubs in Chichester, Portfield and Chichester City, and they merged together, and then really drifted into management from there really. The manager left, I was one of the most senior players, me and the goalkeeper, Adi Girdler, took the club on as player managers to finish the season, did another 2 seasons and just carried on from there really. So my playing career, to probably sum it up, I think early on I probably overachieved for my ability. I had a real desire to play for Waterlooville and get to play in the Southern Prem with those type of players. Looking back, probably wasn't good enough, but got by on effort and attitude, and managed to push myself fitness-wise to be, you know, the best I could be in that element. And then, say injuries, you can never tell when they're going to come, and they knock you back. And once your body starts going, it's very difficult to get back. But I think I was a decent Wessex League player. You know, in my late 20s, early 30s, I played again for Horndean again later on. And you know, enjoyed my football then, understood it a lot better. I was still reasonably fit, and took that into player management really, and then into management. So.
How was that then, talking about that, because that's what we were going to go on to with going into management at 30, was it roughly?
Just turned 30. It was very difficult really, because I still desperately wanted to play, and there was an element, my co-manager was the goalkeeper, and he wanted to play, and it was blatantly obvious that we both couldn't play. And I remember particularly one game where we both played, and midway through the second half, something happened, someone got injured, we needed to make a substitution, and everyone was asking me what I was going to do, and I was so focused on the game, I hadn't really made a thought of it, and at that point I thought, I can't do both really, so I took the option to just play when I was needed and stepped out, and then I found it a lot easier to, you know, concentrate on what you're doing and make proper decisions. So I sort of phased myself up. I played a little bit when I went to Petersfield as player manager, because we were in Wessex 1, and it was obviously an easier level. But again, I only played when I was required really. So soon I got just into management, the better really. So about 35, I stopped playing completely really.
Yeah. It's interesting you saying that actually, where you're saying, we need to make a sub, what can we do? On the pitch, it's like totally two different heads you almost need to
it is. And the thing is, when you play, if you play properly, you should be fully focused on the game, and you're focused on your own performance and people around you, but not necessarily looking at it from what's going on the side of the pitch. Is a totally different view of the game.
Absolutely.
And adrenaline and stuff like that kicks in and affects how you make decisions. So you need good staff around you to lead. If you're going to be a player manager, which I think Lee's going to, Lee wants to play this season, which is good. And I don't think, he's lucky he's going to have me on the touchline doing that side of it. He can just concentrate on playing. He hasn't got to worry about his managerial role. And I think that's the only way you can do it, really.
Yeah, that's nice to be able to have that. Like you said, both of you are on the pitch, so there's
void
in the touchline, isn't there?
Yeah, sure.
So following that, you just touched on, didn't you? You went to Petersfield, then you had a spell as Havant or Leeville.
Yeah, that was probably where it really dawned on me what non-league management was about. At Petersfield, it was still, we had no budget, we didn't pay anybody. It was proper non-league football really. The lads were all there because they wanted to play for the club and they wanted to play football. But I got offered the job. Good friends of mine, Mick Jenkins and Liam Daish, were the joint managers of Havant and Waterlooville. They were starting a reserve team, and they'd only just merged together, the two clubs, the year before. And they were introducing a reserve side for the first time. It was going in the Capital League, which was full of conference clubs, the O Stevenage, Aldershot, some real good grounds to go to, and they wanted me to go over and run that. It was a Wednesday night league for games, which meant on a Saturday I was with the first team on a coaching capacity, and it really opened my eyes to non-league football. You had ex-pros like Liam Daish, Paul Wood, Gareth Hall, Sean Gale was playing at the time, James Taylor was playing for England non-league, Timmy Handley was playing for England non-league side at the time. So they were real proper players, and Dave Leeworthy, another one who was in the non-league paper last weekend, England international, played for Tottenham, had just signed for the club at the same time as me. And they all played in the reserves Wednesday night if they were injured or coming back from injury, or they weren't in the squad. And it was a real baptism really, because I was coming from a small club with no professional background, and I was working with players that were proper pros, so it was intimidating to start with, but hopefully gained the respect of them and really enjoyed it, and had 3 good years there until they decided that they were going to disband the reserve side. And it was time to move on really, and I applied for the job at Fleet Town in the old South Eastern League, and got it and moved there. And that was the end of that chapter really, but that was probably where I learned the most. It was, you know, the senior pros were where, you know, you listen to them, you look at how they conduct themselves, and it was a mixture of we had the best under 18 side in the league, which was run by Dave Leeworthy and Bobby Deason-Croy. We had the best kids in the area. Some of them are still playing now at Wessex level, Southern League level. And it was a real good learning curve really. So,
that's awesome.
And then Fleet was the opposite. Went to a club with really struggling, very limited budget in a real tough league. Made the mistake really of thinking that a lot of the under 18s that haven't were good enough to play that level. It's blatantly obvious that you know, you couldn't stay up in that league with a team of kids.
Yeah.
You needed older players. Had 2 real tough seasons there. Got relegated the first season, but stayed in the league because they rejigged it.
Right. Yeah.
And then the second season got to November, we got switched to the Ryman League from the Southern League. I think we were 8th, but had a disagreement with the chairman who, at the time, wanted his son to play, who was in the youth team. I didn't see it the same way.
It's very difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, we parted ways really, and then drifted on from there really. After that, went back to Gosport under John Robson as assistant manager. That didn't work out too well. He got the sack again around November time. Went to Chichester as manager, did a season there, but the club at the time was in free fall really. And then applied for the Andover job, which was one of my ex-clubs as a player. Really enjoyed it there, 2 seasons until they had money problems, dropped out of the Southern League, but I kept them in the Southern League for 2 seasons on a real limited budget, cut every few months. I was quite proud of that really, and then my contract ran out, I left at the end of that, and the first phone call I received was from Alex Pike, which was amazing really, because we never really got on that well. We were in the same league, we beat them towards the end of my last season. We ended up at the tribunal because he tried to tap one of my players up, so we didn't really
even in non-league.
No, even in non-league it was, you know, he's a character, but to be fair, he was the first person on the phone. Said, look, I really like what you do, I need a number 2, this is what the plans are for the club. Gosport was one of my old clubs, I always liked going back there. Met him, sold it to me, and spent 9 years there really. So probably looking at that, the longest I've spent anywhere really. Three years as a player at Gosport was probably the longest I'd stayed anywhere. Not always my fault. And certainly, you know, we were successful, so there was no reason to look to move. So.
Awesome. Like, just thinking to summarise that chat set, it's been really interesting hearing the different situations that you've talked about at different clubs, and you come into one place and it's a totally different scenario to everyone. So how is that, like, in terms of going from, you know, a certain setup, certain types of people and individuals, or certain leagues have got a certain type of player or even style? How is it changing between that?
Yeah, I think you know, any managerial job, even when I went to Gosport with Alex, he'd already been there 2 seasons, won the Wessex League. I think he'd had a season in the Southern League, and then I joined. And it takes 3 seasons, I think, for a manager to build a side capable of achieving any success, and not many managers nowadays get that. And if you want to go into management, the chances are you're going to be taking a job with a club that's struggling, because managers don't move when they're doing well. Clubs that are doing well can attract numerous applicants for the job. So if you're going to go into management, you've got to be prepared to take a job for a struggling side. When I went to Petersfield, they were bottom of the league when I joined in November, and the job was to keep the club up, which we did. Andover was the same. I joined in December, and they were second bottom, and the remit was to stay up. So once you're in there, then you've got to build an environment to try and turn the thing around and build some momentum to get results, and then try and put your own stamp on it, which is difficult to do because people want immediate results, and you don't always get that. Sometimes you come in and it goes backwards before it goes forward. So my job always is to bring my own people in that I know and can trust, which is staff-wise. And then on the playing side, you need to get people in that you know can do the job. And if you've got limited funds, that's a battle to do that. But going back to the Gosport thing, we had 2 seasons together, me and Alex, and we did absolutely nothing. I think we finished 8th and 12th, which could be seen as going backwards really. And I always remember a game at Moneyfields in the FA Cup. They were in the Wessex League, we were in the South West, which was the league above. We were 1-0 up, lost 2-1, and I honestly thought that was the end of that. And I actually said to Alex that day, this isn't working, if you want to go in a different route. And he went, no, I believe in what we're doing, let's stick with it. And then we got to the end of that season, the following season, we won in the playoffs, got promoted, beat Poole Town. The second season, straight in the Southern Prem, November, we were second bottom, struggling, didn't adapt to it very well, and then all of a sudden went 23 games unbeaten and got in the playoffs on the last day, beating St Neots 1-0, and then beat Stourbridge in the semi, beat Hemel on penalties in the final after being 2-0 up. So all of a sudden, from doing pretty much average, we were in the Conference South. And from there we built another side, and obviously had the success that we had after that. So but that took overall 6 or 7 seasons to get to that to that level.
Yeah, it's a successful period, and even I remember that season myself being a Redditch supporter.
In
that division. I remember playing you at the beginning of the season. I think we won 3-2 at the Park. But then seeing you kind of just quietly storm up the league was really interesting. And like you said, Stourbridge, teams like that you beat, they were really good sides at that time.
I think the real game for me that season was we played Bedford Town away, and it was my birthday, and I was going to see Tim Burgess at the Charlatans in Brighton that evening. And I remember I drove up on my own, didn't go on the coach because I was going there afterwards, and Alex phoned me and he was ill and couldn't make the game, and he said, you'll have to take it. And I remember going there and we lost 1-0, and Justin Bennett missed 7 or 8 gilt-edged chances that he would normally take. And I remember driving back from that game thinking we were second bottom, it was November the 3rd, and I was thinking we're going to get relegated here if we don't. And literally the next game we won, I can't remember what the next game was, but we did literally went 23 games without losing. I know a few draws in there, and propelled us right up the league. And it's just crazy how things change. And I think Justin Bennett from that game went on a scoring streak where he just couldn't miss. And it was like that game, he literally could have had 5 or 6. So it's amazing how football can change and how your luck can change. And you've got to have a strong chairman to start with who's going to back you through the bad times, because if he hasn't got faith in you, you're not going to last long.
Exactly.
It's a strange world of management.
Absolutely.
Right, that's the end of part 1 of our episode with the Gutter King himself, Mick Catlin. I hope you've enjoyed the episode so far. Make sure that you tune into part 2 later on in the week. We'll be discussing with Mick his journey to the FA Trophy final at Wembley with Gosport. We'll also be talking to him about how he came to be a part of the setup at AFC Portchester with joint manager Ian Saunders in 2017. And we'll also be chatting to him about his taste in music and what he'd like as his terrace anthem when the season comes to begin. Until then, make sure you check us out on social media at Arancione Fans on Twitter and Facebook. Also at Arancione_AFCP Fans on Instagram. And just make sure you like and subscribe on the Pulp, Punditry and Portchy YouTube channel. That really helps us out a lot. Until next time, guys, see you later in the week. Forza Portchy.